What is up, Dodgers Nation? I'm Clint, sitting here with a former lovely DN editor, and then he went on to, well, there's no such thing as bigger and better things from Dodgers Nation, let's be real.
Exactly.
But Gabe Burns, now the beat writer for the AJC and the Braves in Atlanta. Thanks for coming back. Second time hanging out with us, and you had to come and bring a little bit of overcast here to SoCal.
Yeah, a little bit. Like we get half of our games are rain delayed at home, so I think it just follows us.
Seems fair enough. So Braves are here in town against the Dodgers. Second place in the East right now, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And
yes.
Sitting eight? Well, I got them right here. 18-16 on the season. Winners of their last three straight. What's been going on with these Braves since we last met in October?
It's been a pretty mediocre start. I mean, they're over 500 now because they just swept the Marlins in Miami, and that's they do get to play. Yeah, they do get to play Miami about 18 times a year. So I mean that helps everybody in the division really. Mm-hmm. It's been an average start. Their bullpen has struggled a lot. I know like everyone has bullpen problems, but I mean they've had a few kind of shining moments where they've looked pretty competent. I mean it's mostly been pretty hit or miss with this group. I mean I think the rotation is going to be pretty good. Fulte didn't come back until recently. He had bone spurs in his right elbow and he missed most of spring and then the start of the year. But they've got Max Fried now, who is emerging into a frontline starter. They've got Mike Soroka, who is starting to even look like a frontline starter at 21 years old. So they do have these couple of guys who are kind of anchoring the rotation. I mean, a 25-year-old and a 21-year-old are kind of piecing everything together. And then you've got Kevin Gausman and Julio Teheran to kind of round things out. So I think the rotation is ultimately going to be a strength with this team. Not sure about the bullpen. Obviously, our fans are clamoring for Kimbrel all the time, but they simply don't want to do 3 years there. And obviously, not many other teams do either.
Yeah, that's been surprising to see. And that was one of the things looking at the offseason. You know, you really looked at Atlanta. A lot of people looked at Atlanta. Well, I mean, a lot of people looked at Dallas Keuchel as a good fit for a lot of teams, but he made a lot of sense to bring that, the veteran presence to everybody over there. Still surprising to see him on the free agent market, but yeah, like you're saying, it looks like Atlanta is pretty decent and pretty set rotation wise. Just a little young, which you would like that veteran leadership, but it's not like Teheran can't handle that that role a bit.
Out of everyone we talked about in the offseason, and the Braves had a really quiet offseason, and the fan base has been going crazy because they simply didn't. They make the playoffs. They're ahead of schedule. They make the playoffs. They meet kind of the big dog. They go down. And then all they did was add Josh Donaldson, and kind of the fan base was pissed because it's like, where's the bullpen help? Where's the rotation help? I loved Corey Kluber as a fit. He's a Stetson guy from down in Florida. I mean, he just made a lot of sense. I mean, obviously he's gotten off to a bad start, and now he's on the DL. But I thought he made a lot of sense. He didn't even get moved. And they just simply didn't like a lot of like even A.J. Pollock. A lot of people wanted him. I mean, we're already seeing what's happened there.
Yeah. I
mean, that's 5 years. They wouldn't have dreamed of doing that because they simply can't absorb that kind of contract if it doesn't work out.
That's the big thing with that team. You're looking at there's not only so long that for Friedman's going to be a reasonably priced asset for the team. They just did a huge signing, which some people are kind of panning, the Albies signing, which is great for the team, maybe not so much for the player, but, it's not our money. We're not the ones to judge. It's not.
That's the thing is, like, with Acuna only got $100 million, which sounds stupid from us saying only $100 million.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, let's be honest. If he signed away his prime years, I don't think he can hit free agency until about 31 now. So if he was able to hit free agency as a 26 or 27-year-old, I mean – you're definitely beating the Machado contract.
At that point in time, assuming there's a fair chance.
Yeah, so, I mean, he did leave money on the table, but at the same time, he is a 21-year-old who just guaranteed himself $100 million.
Yeah,
so
which isn't, I would have liked to have been in that situation. As a 21-year-old. I would like to be in that situation now as a 33-year-old, but that's just me. But, yeah, you're talking about obviously every team. It's, how come they didn't go harder in the free agent market? The Dodgers didn't do enough, even though you signed, what was it, the number 2 or number 3, 4 relief pitcher available. Hasn't worked out. Pollock, you got the second or third best outfielder that was available on the market. Hasn't worked out yet. Braves went smart re-signing Markakis, and that's proven well. Until Donaldson got hurt again, he was starting to looks like he was hitting well after that first week.
He's endured a little criticism, but I'll tell you, like, one thing I did not expect, his defense is awesome.
Yeah,
I mean,
Gold Glover, MVP. He used to check all the boxes.
Yeah, he's still he's really started to kind of hit lately, and he's hitting balls hard too. Like eventually, it was one of those things where even when the numbers weren't there, he was hitting it so hard. You're like, this is going to turn around.
Yeah, so, getting a lot of those Adam balls.
Yeah, he's going to be. I mean, having him, Acuna, and Freddie there in the middle is just that's pretty dangerous.
It's definitely imposing. That was a very, very good. Obviously, who was it? Johan Camargo is a great player, and I think he was mostly playing 3B when last the Dodgers faced y'all. But I would say Donaldson can be and is a pretty good improvement. And I threw together some quickie stats. After his first week, he was hitting like $150, and everybody was like, "Oh, this is trash." And 296 in the last 23 games, 5 bombs. He's driving in runs, and looks like that calf though. Just that calf could never get right for him.
The good news about what happened there was that it was his other calf, not the one that kept him out from last year.
Okay,
so that was the good news, and he only missed a few games, but still
we call that compensating. Gang.
but still, I mean, obviously you don't want to see that with him, and any kind of just kind of stumble with him. You're like, oh no, what happened? But that was kind of their big addition. That made the most sense. It was a 1-year deal, which was important to them because, I mean, the fans kind of make fun of them because they talk a lot about keeping flexibility. But now they do have 2 of their cornerstones signed up. I mean, they will have to re-sign Freddie Freeman within the next couple of years.
Yep.
But I would imagine that won't be ridiculous because he does want to spend his whole career with the Braves. So they have room to make a move at the deadline. They have room to take on some money at the deadline. But the counter argument to there would just be, are you still going to be in it at the deadline? I think they will be, but it's pretty fair. The fans are going, well, why are you waiting till the deadline to do this when you could have been doing this in winter? And now they need bullpen help, and it's one thing after another. Yeah,
it's always going to be the best laid plans or whatever you want to call it, but it seems like, with at the time bringing back McCann, adding or bringing back NCRT, or not NCRT, like I said, Markakis, and then the addition of Donaldson. That those were some big moves that really were looking to the future, but also not looking too deep into the future where you're gonna gouge your pockets or whatever it may be. But I know just every team always wants bullpen help, and like we already alluded to, Kimbrel's still out there.
Yes, he is.
It made a lot of sense at the time for the reunion there in Atlanta, and now the closer Vizcaino, he's out for the season, right?
He's out for the season, so their back end is. They're kind of going with a combo. AJ Minter was kind of the guy they wanted to maybe see assume that role, but so far he's kind of had a pretty pedestrian year, so they're kind of mixing and matching guys right now. I mean, it's definitely a hole, and I totally understand people being critical of it, but at the same time, that doesn't mean that they should budge and go ahead and sign a contract that they're not comfortable with just for the sake of fixing now. I mean, in my opinion, I think that the Phillies or Nationals should have hopped on Kimbrel a long time ago.
Yeah.
Especially Washington, considering what's going on up there. I mean, a lot of people thought that maybe they would win the East, and they're off to a horrible start again.
Yeah.
I wasn't very fond of them going in. I liked the other 3 teams better.
Yeah, makes enough sense.
But I mean, they've kind of got to get something together with that bullpen. It's the worst in the majors, and so to me, that's the logical Kimbrel destination.
So that's one question I had for you. Who signs Kimbrel first, Braves or the Dodgers?
I'm not sure he wants to play out here. I'm not sure that he wants to play out west again. I mean, he'll play wherever he gets the contract, of course. But
I would assume at this point in time, it's been a minute.
It's tough if you're him because if you're waiting until after the June draft where there won't be a pick, where you won't lose a pick for signing him. I mean, I would think someone would jump at it, but again, he's going to take time to get ready. If you're signing a 1-year deal, if you're him and you come out and you're on that 1-year deal and you struggle, then what happens to your market then?
It really is a sticky situation for him, especially being a 31-year-old relief pitcher. He's got a lot of mileage on him. A lot of people. It's funny to look at. One of the last times the Dodgers faced the Braves in the playoffs, which was that 2013 series, and still etched in. I'm sure in Atlanta's nightmares is him just sitting there in the bullpen while I think it was Carpenter gave it up, but. for us, it remains. We got the bobblehead over here of Uribe's walk off. So
every time the bullpen struggles and I'm tweeting about it, someone always replies with a GIF of Kimbrel. It's good.
Yeah. Don't worry, we see that one over here a lot too.
Yeah.
But it makes a lot of sense it makes sense for anybody. You're signing one of the best closers to ever play the game. Makes an abundance more sense because he came up with Atlanta. But yeah, the other side of it, like you're saying, you have a real tough opportunity or interesting opportunity to damage your market going forward if you end up signing just for the prorated for the rest of the year. Say, oh, we'll give you a $40 million contract and pay you half of it, whatever it may be.
Exactly.
The old Roger Clemens with the Yankees thing, but still, I'm hoping he finds his way here because the Dodgers every season now are, as we struggle our way to 2 World Series berths, it remains remains a struggle in the pen.
If you look at like all of the free agent relievers, okay, they're like all struggling. Mm-hmm. All of them have bloated, and I know it's still early, and I mean, I think
it's early game.
I mean, Andrew Miller's numbers are going to wind up better than they have been. I mean, these guys are going to straighten up, but it's, when you're a mid-market team like the Braves, you can't afford to have a bad reliever contract on your books. Mm-hmm. You can't. I mean, like I look at the McCutchen contract. The Phillies said they were going to spend stupid money. Everyone really saw that as an overpay.
Yeah,
they didn't care.
Nope.
The Braves are not in a position where they can say, we don't care, give McCutchen. I think they viewed McCutchen as a guy that, like, in January, okay, they had a hole in right field, let's give him a kind of a bigger 1-year deal. I think that's how they viewed McCutchen, and that's probably how a lot of teams viewed him, but the Phillies just swooped in and they give him $50 million or whatever.
Yeah.
And, it's just tough. Like, the Braves GM, Alex Anthopoulos, comes from here, of course. He was here a couple of years, and so he's aware that there's certain risks that you can take here and you can take in New York that you cannot take in Atlanta. So from that perspective, I mean, was he supposed to give A.J. Pollock 5 years? That was one of the most surprising things of the offseason to me. I couldn't believe the Dodgers did that.
It was a bit of a surprise.
Yeah, that's not to criticize Pollock, who's a good player, but he does have those healthy. And my thing was just the years. Mm-hmm. I was just surprised that they committed so many years to him.
Yeah, and I mean, again, exceptional player. They had a need. They had that opening for a right-handed bat. We've now since filled it with the likes of Travis d'Arnaud, which, I mean, Dave Roberts likes his third catcher, but, hopefully things in the long run work out. Unfortunately, we see that often. You've followed the Dodgers, the Dodgers long enough, and their foray into free agent spending. And so far, they're 0 for 2 or in the early goings of this season.
Well, let me ask you, not to open a can that I'm sure all of you are sick of talking about, but were you frustrated at the really lack of enthusiasm for Harper? I mean, was that frustrating at all?
I was never personally that high on Harper. Like, there was different points in the offseason. I'm sure people who happen to watch this, who saw me enough this offseason, will be like, oh, that's BS. You said it here and here. I mean, there's no doubt when you have a game-changing talent, you want to make a run at him, but I didn't want this guy to hamstring my team for the next 10 to 15 years, whatever the hell he was looking for. Good player, but I have faith in the players that are around. When we have, at the time, like 2 second basemen that could also play pretty decent outfield to plus outfield, and then, one of those being CT3 that we hope figures it out. But, he just didn't make an abundance of sense to go from – Puig, who was like our guy, and then to bring in Harper, who was kind of somebody who's in the same vein of that type of player, at least in terms of the show, not the game itself, not actually the stats. I think, it just made a lot of sense for the Dodgers to avoid that, bringing in the next guy to sort of take the reins in that.
See, like, when I was looking at the Harper market, everyone kind of connected him to L.A., and he wanted to play here, of course. And it's like, okay, well, that makes a lot of sense. But to me, to bring San Francisco into it, I feel like that was a real missed opportunity for them.
Oh, absolutely.
Because at this point, and I think Farhan's going to do his own thing there. I mean, there's probably a tear down coming. I know it's hard to do there, and I know they don't want to do it, but there's going to be like more of a retool than a rebuild, I think. Like trading Mad Bum, for instance.
Mad Bum's going to absolutely be in the market.
Maybe trading Posey if it comes to that. I'm not sure that they would ever move off that, but
I don't know. I mean, the guy's market's not really there anymore.
Yeah,
he's not Buster Posey anymore.
He's not, and he's a Georgia kid. He's from like an hour up the road from me, actually.
Oh, right
out there. And his sister played softball at my college, so we like him out in Georgia, but. Yeah. I mean, for me, it was like Harper was the perfect opportunity for them, just from a market to fill that place back up again. I mean, you've seen some of the crowds up there. I mean, that ballpark's too great for it to be
absolutely
to be empty like
to
it
be.
is.
I think even you have Dodgers in town and they couldn't sell it out, and that's normally people go out there with. Well, I mean, they have to check their pitchforks and torches at the door, but still,
it's. Yeah, like you look at the lineup, and it's just they just really need a guy like. I mean, they really needed a guy like that, and I feel like. It would have been worth going ahead and overpaying because it's like you see it in Philadelphia. They're making their money back off of him already. Yeah. I mean, with the tickets they're selling, the merchandise, I mean, he's a gold mine. He would have been really good there.
Yeah, or even, Machado, but they had what's his name? Not McCutcheon. Brandon Belt. Not Belt. I keep going with Belt.
Crawford.
Crawford, there you go. And, some people seem to like him, but some people also say that he needs to go to the hairdresser and get a wash. Anyway, BSing aside, let's look back here at this series for, what are we on, May 6th. So we're going to be here for 3 days. Or y'all are going to be here for 3 days. We got Gausman fresh off an ejection in Miami.
He actually, right before I came in, I was tweeting about it. MLB announced a 5-game suspension for him.
Oh, nice.
He's appealing.
Okay.
So I'm guessing he will be starting tonight.
So he's going up against Buehler tonight, and that seems like the well, I don't know. I don't know if Gausman is necessarily struggling. I don't see he's obviously the numbers say he's struggling, but he's not that front of the rotation guy.
It's weird with him because he was like a top 5 pick years ago with the Orioles, and he hasn't really pieced together a high profile career or anything. But when you watch the guy pitch, it's like you see some of his stuff, and it's like, how is this guy not like a number 2?
Well, you said it. He was picked by the Orioles.
Well,
they just don't do everything all that exceptional over there.
There was stuff that the Braves did with him, like analytically, just like try to look at this, and I'm talking about how important those first pitch strikes were for him. That stuff that he just was never told in Baltimore. I mean, an organizational issue in Baltimore that they're taking steps toward finally evolving. Yeah. But, that definitely didn't help him develop. I think that the Braves so far have done a pretty good job with him. It's been feast or famine thus far, but ultimately you're looking at a guy that's probably a middle-of-the-rotation starter. I mean, he's at his kind of peak now. So that's fine. I mean, he's an innings eater. He typically stays healthy. I mean, every team needs a guy like that.
It seems like the exact type of guy that really the Braves need and could thrive in Atlanta. Yeah, and he's not going to be terribly expensive.
Yeah, and he's an LSU guy, so he's familiar. He's familiar with the South and everything. It's a good fit.
I like Game 2 with your Braves star pinch runner Max Fried.
Yeah,
that just seemed like a scary play. Even as a baseball fan watching that, I was like, kid, you're going in hard.
Yeah,
what's up with that? Yeah. But that's going to be a fun matchup, Fried versus Ryu, because Ryu, of course, stymied the Braves last time they met, and we're pretty happy about that one. Maybe not so much Kershaw because he didn't get Game 1, but boo-hoo. And he gets Game 3 in this case, so suck it, Kersh. I kid. But what do you see in this kid Fried? Because I know now that this is year. How many years now?
So he came up late summer of 17.
Okay.
And he kind of bounced between the bullpen and the rotation, and he bounced between AAA and the majors. It was one of those situations where it's just a guy that was kind of not able to really put it together. He came to spring training this year, was their best pitcher in spring. He's been their best pitcher all year. He was leading the NL in ERA. I'd have to go look. I haven't looked in a few days, so he might have gone down there. But really, really talented kid. Has composure, has confidence. A Jewish left-hander from L.A., and he loves Koufax. And this was the ballpark he grew up going to, so I think that this start is going to be a huge deal for him.
Yeah, check it out right here, Santa Monica boy.
He went to high school with Giolito.
Oh, okay.
And, so he was again,
that's good competition in the rotation for you.
Yeah, he's really, really good. I had mixed kind of feelings on him since he had come up, and he's really just. It's one of those things where I guess the light just kind of came on entering spring. I mean, he's 25 years old now, so he's kind of he's seasoned enough. He's definitely their best starter at this point. Looks like a frontline guy. The curveball is awesome. One of the best curveballs you'll see in the NL.
Yeah, looking at the numbers, this seems like the prime type of dude. Like, when Dodgers stole Alex Wood a few years ago, maybe we could go out and get Max Fried real quick.
I think you'd have a hard time getting him.
But yeah, this should be. I think that's the game. The middle game worries me the most because like you're saying, he's an LA boy. He's a lefty, and that's all I really need to say. When it comes to the Dodgers, they struggle. We'll go with they struggle against lefties, and namely we go with Corey Seager as a around here the big question mark in a way, because he seems like off and on he'll be hitting the ball hard, but of course he's coming off 2 major operations, barely played much in 2018, and his batting average is down to like 150 against lefties or something around there. So that's what we're trying to limit it, and luckily we get to face 2 of yours.
Well, the Braves have actually been surprisingly good against lefties. Like fourth, I think their OPS is like 4th in the majors against lefties now. Mm-hmm. Like they actually hit lefties really well. So I'm especially after last year's postseason, I'm really interested to see how they end up doing against those 2 guys.
Yeah. And then the final one, you got Folty making his 3rd start of the season. Yeah. Kershaw making his, I believe it's 5th start of the season. If I really want that to be more of a marquee matchup, I think on paper it tries to be, but it's going to be a pretty fun game in its own way.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Folty is definitely still shaking off the rust. I mean, he missed all of spring training. He's really just come back. He hasn't looked great. The stuff just hasn't really been there, mm-hmm. and he's been honest about it. He just says I kind of need more time to piece everything together. So definitely a big start for him to just see which way he's trending.
Yeah, because it looks like just looking at some of the bodies here in the around the rotation. I mean, if it doesn't work out, they might have somebody they could plug in there. Well, apparently Kyle Wright didn't work out for y'all.
Well, it was. Kyle will be okay. I think a lot of people believe Kyle is the best pitching prospect they have. Mm-hmm. He will be okay. It was just a matter of kind of a kid getting a little. I mean, he did okay against the Phillies on that opening weekend, which was just a disaster for them. They got swept. They got destroyed. Mm-hmm. They've played significantly better since, except for the Diamondback series, which they were swept at home. But again, which that team is shocking.
Yeah, so, they're being sneaky right now, but that's not really who the Diamondbacks are.
So when I'm kind of looking at, we were talking about this the other day. I'm looking at all these different rosters in the NL, and Arizona has a couple of guys who have kind of come out of nowhere. It's like, who's this guy? And he's hitting like 320, and you're like, wow, look at this dude, like Christian Walker. Yes. He's been really good, and it's like, wow. But when I'm really looking at it, I'm going, the 2 best young players, not to qualify this by age, but like the 2 best young players in the NL are probably Acuna and Bellinger. Like, if you were guessing, like, over the next 10 years, who would you want to have? Would those be your probably top 2? I mean, thinking about
they're going to be somewhere in that top 5 conversation. Yeah. In the players? I guess we can go. Let's put a limit on like players 24, 25 and under. Yeah. Those are players you probably want to try to build your franchise around. Look, obviously you want to try to find a pitcher in there too. I've never been good at fantasy baseball, so I don't know where to start with that one. So who's your player to look out for on the Brave side? Who are you expecting big things from in this series?
Well, it's easy. It's kind of cheating. It's almost cheating to say Acuna because he does. I mean, he loves these kind of stages. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think he's going to really like playing out here and kind of getting a chance to hit off guys like Buehler, hit off Kershaw. I mean, I think that he really looks forward to that. Ozzie Albies is a pretty big difference maker because they moved him to leadoff. They've kind of lacked a real leadoff man. Ender Inciarte struggled there. Mm-hmm. So Ozzie's been kind of hit or miss as a leadoff guy, but he
doesn't strike me as a high on base guy.
He's got he strikes out more than you would like.
But that's just the game.
He swings
today.
A lot. Yeah, it is. But he is dynamic. He's got real gap power. I mean. So he's definitely got to watch out for. And Dansby Swanson, who didn't get to play in last year's postseason series, I wrote this earlier today, is kind of how his season projects might determine whether this team makes the playoffs or not, because he got off to a great start. He's cooled off since. It's just a matter of kind of staying in his mean rather than kind of dipping into any of those valleys.
And, of course, Freddie Freeman's always going to be Freddie. He finds his way.
He loves playing out here. He's from out here. I mean, he loves it.
How many wins? How many wins are the Braves leaving LA with? Keep in mind, people know where to find you on the internet.
I don't know. I'd probably guess the Dodgers take 2 out of 3, but I definitely wouldn't be shocked if the Braves came away in this series. It came away with 2 wins. I don't think it's a sweep either way, though.
I think the final one, I know most people are going to really want to know. Are your guys taking care of our Charlie Culberson?
Man, Charlie is the best.
Didn't he throw an inning this year too?
He did, and he did last year. He hasn't gotten to play that much this year, actually. They finally started working him into the lineup, and there was like a point where like half his hits were extra base hits because he was barely playing. He had like 8 at-bats, and 4 of them were extra base hits or something.
Nice.
Still comes through clutch when he needs to. I mean, he's one of the clutch players on the team, even though he's not playing every day.
Yeah, he has that gene somewhere. It's just insane.
Yeah. And he's
a good dude.
And I mean, he's from Rome, Georgia, which is, basically part of Atlanta, and he's a great guy. He's one of my favorite people to deal with. One of the first guys to always tell you, hey, when you come in. I mean, he's just a great guy to have around. He's a great influence. He's obviously been a part of these winning teams that he was able to help last year and kind of helping these young guys along know what that's like.
Yeah, he ended up he's kind of carved that niche now as that dude you add. Before back in the day, who was it? It was like Johnny Gomes. It was on every team or something like that. It was that type of player. And this guy, while he's a little bit different, better defender, he gets the job done. Checks all the boxes that you want as that. He's not going to start every game, but he's that, that 23rd, 24th, 25th guy that just he plays everywhere and does it exceptionally. And somehow since he went over there, he's turned into a real offensive threat too.
It's worked. I think every contending team needs a guy needs a couple guys like that. I mean, I think that the model that the Braves are copying themselves after the Dodgers in a lot of ways. I mean, Alex.
Anthopoulos knew what he was doing. We're watching you.
So he saw, like when Chris Taylor was as successful as he was then. I mean, he saw how valuable that type of player is. I mean, even Bellinger being able to play different spots. I mean, just that versatility. So guys like Camargo and Culberson are just so huge for everything this team's trying to do. Where you can withstand if Josh Donaldson has to go on the DL, if Ender goes on the DL, you can move Acuna to center and you can put Charlie or Camargo in left. I mean, there's just so many options for what you can do there, and that's what modern baseball is about.
Absolutely.
And they're definitely trending in that direction.
Yeah, I think the Braves were sort of the model for baseball about 20, 25 years ago. Not to say that they've done anything bad in between. Baseball just happens that way, and Chipper got old.
There's that.
But, I would say a lot of teams, it makes a lot of sense for them to try to copy the Dodgers, and, the Braves have an inside man.
Well, yeah, and you look at so the Braves went through that big rebuild. That really, when you think about it, didn't take that long.
Absolutely
They got
not.
So many pitching, and I know
because they were 2 years ahead last year. It felt like.
Yeah. And obviously the GM and the front office had to resign, and there was that whole scandal and everything, and that's going to affect them down the road because they're basically blocked out of the international market. Which, obviously makes the domestic draft that much more important.
Absolutely.
Which makes it more difficult to sign a free agent where you're forfeiting a pick because you need that pick because you're not going to be. So they may not feel those effects for another few years. That might be something 5 years down the line that they start to feel those effects. But their system is so deep, and they have guys that they can flip for more depth, that was really a well-done rebuild. And I'm not a huge advocate of the whole tear everything down and rebuild. I think you should have a direction. That's why I was pretty critical of the Diamondbacks because I wasn't really sure what they were doing. They traded Goldie, and then it was they're just fine.
Are they going to? Are they going to rebuild? And then they made a move. I mean, I like the Adam Jones move. It made a lot of sense. He wasn't as dead as people want to make him out to be.
Yeah, he's been good.
Yeah, and that move made a lot, and I think that brought a different type of veteran presence to the team that it really did need. But I mean, I think everybody was looking at that team like they don't quite have an identity.
Yeah, so I get it. Not my thing is just not every one of these huge teardowns that the Braves and the Cubs and the Astros did. Not all of them are going to work.
Nope.
There's no way all of them are going to work, and that's why I don't mind what the Padres did, going out and just trying to spend some money now and just because I mean you can't just kind of bank on all these prospects and wait for these 18-year-olds to get. I mean, this is a different sport. This isn't the NBA where an 18-year-old can 2 years can save a franchise. You know. So it worked out for them, but I'm curious to see what other teams, especially in the NL, of course, that are trying this, kind of full-on rebuild, which ones work and which ones just kind of, float around.
Well, we wish enough success to the Braves, I'd say. Not all of the success, but
might see you in the playoffs again.
Yeah, exactly. So, we know we got a friend in town over here, and the office doors are always open. But that's Gabe Burns. I'm gonna call you senior beat writer now because I just made it up for the AJC. Tell them where to find you on the internet.
Yeah, it's at Gabe Burns AJC. My picture's actually from Dodger Stadium during the playoffs last year, so that's a little salute to my Dodgers past.
Mixing in a little bit of everything in there.
Yeah.
Right on. And have fun out in the stadium and tell Colby that we miss him. Dodgers Nation misses you, Colby.